Today we're going to be looking at the Magic Finger pages 1 through 9. The farm next to ours is owned by Mr. and Mrs. Gregg. The Greggs have 2 children, both of them boys. Their names are Philip and William. Sometimes I go over to their farm to play with them. I am a girl, and I am 8 years old. Philip is also 8 years old. William is 3 years older. He is 10. What? Oh, all right then. He is 11. Last week, something very funny happened to the Gregg family, and I'm going to tell you about it as best I can. Now, the one thing that Mr. Gregg and his 2 boys loved to do more than anything else was to go hunting. Every Saturday morning, they would take their guns and go off into the woods to look for animals and birds to shoot. Even Philip, who was only 8 years old, had a gun of his own. I can't stand hunting. I just can't stand it. It doesn't seem right to me that men and boys should kill animals just for the fun they get out of it. So I used to try to stop Philip and William from doing it. Every time I went over to their farm, I would do my best to talk them out of it, but they only laughed at me. I even said something about it once to Mr. Gregg, but he just walked on past me as if I wasn't there. Then, one Saturday morning, I saw Philip and William coming out of the woods with their father, and they were carrying a lovely young deer. This made me so cross that I started shouting at them. The boys laughed and made faces at me, and Mr. Gregg told me to go home and mind my own P's and Q's. Well, that did it. I saw red, and before I was able to stop myself, I did something I never meant to do. I put the magic finger on them all. Oh dear, I even put it on Mrs. Gregg, who wasn't there. I put it on the whole Gregg family. For months I had been telling myself that I would never put the magic finger upon anyone again, not after what happened to my teacher, old Mrs. Winter. Poor old Miss Winter. One day we were in class and she was teaching us spelling. "Stand up," she said to me, "and spell cat." "That's an easy one," I said. K-A-T. "You're a stupid little girl," Mrs. Winter said. "I am not a stupid little girl," I cried. "I am a very nice little girl." "Go and stand in the corner," Mrs. Winter said. Then I got cross, and I saw red, and I put the magic finger on Mrs. Winter good and strong, and almost at once, guess what? Whiskers began growing out of her face. They were long black whiskers, just like the ones you see on a cat, only much bigger. And how fast they grew. Before we had time to think, they were out to her ears. Of course, the whole class started screaming with laughter, and then Mrs. Winter said, "Will you be so kind as to tell me what you find so madly funny, all of you?" When she turned around to write something on the blackboard, we saw that she had grown a tail as well. It was a huge, bushy tail. I cannot begin to tell you what happened after that, but if any of you are wondering whether Mrs. Winter is quite all right again now, the answer is no, and she never will be. The magic finger is something I have been able to do all my life. I can't tell you just how I do it because I don't even know myself. But it always happens when I get cross, when I see red. Then I get very, very hot all over. Then the tip of my forefinger of my right hand begins to tingle most terribly. And suddenly a sort of flash comes out of me, a quick flash, like something electric. It jumps out and touches the person who has made me cross. And after that, the magic finger is upon him or her, and things begin to happen. Well, the magic finger was now upon the whole of the Gregg family, and there was no taking it off again. I ran home and waited for things to happen. They happened fast. I shall now tell you what those things were. I got the whole story from Philip and William the next morning after it was over. And those are pages 1 through 9 from The Magic Finger. We are going to look at the questions in your packet now that go with those. It's on, should look something like this. I have mine scratched out, don't worry about that. Question 1 says, who is telling the story? Is it the little girl, William, or on the farm? Who's telling the story? Should be A, the little girl. Number 2, where do the characters live? Do they live in the city, on the farm, or in the suburbs? And we know that it is B, on the farm. Number 3, before using her magic finger, how does the girl try to solve her problem with the Gregs? A, she takes their guns. B, she ignores them. C, she tries to talk them out of hunting. And that is C, she tries to talk them out of hunting. Number 4, how do the Gregs upset the girl? A, they kill a deer. B, they are mean to her. Or C, they make fun of her finger. And that is A, they kill a deer. Number 5, why does the girl point her magic finger at Mrs. Winter? A, Mrs. Winter calls her stupid. B, the girl is bored. C, it was an accident. And the answer to number 5 is A. Mrs. Winter calls her stupid. Number 6, what happens to Mrs. Winter? Nothing happens to her. B, she disappears. C, she turns into a cat. And that is C, she turns into a cat. Number 7, how long has the girl had her magic finger? Since the morning, for 2 years, or her whole life? And number 7 is C, her whole life. Number 8, what happens to the girl when she gets cross? Well, we know that her finger gets tingly and a flash comes out of her. So we're going to write that down here. Her finger gets tingly and a flash comes out of her. And those are the first comprehension questions for pages 1 through 9. Have a great day.